Well, you seem like you're yourself for now. I feel like I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah, I am. I am myself. But another thing I should say as well with this is, yes, it's important to be yourself, but I also think it's important to be yourself on 10. And what I mean by that is, to be honest with you, Patty, right, there's been a few things that have happened today that have...
Hello, Kyle.
Hi, Patty. Great to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy that to have you on the Break Time with Patty show. And how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a nice sunny day here in Glasgow, Scotland, which is quite rare. So it's a good day. It's a good day.
It's true. Yes, actually, it looks like it could be London here. Actually, it's pretty rainy and gray today, but good in Montreal, Canada. So I'm very grateful to Michael Zitney, who actually I had already seen you in the contest, but basically he's the one who nudged me and said, "Oh,
Yes.
Kyle Murtagh, he has such an amazing online charisma. You really want him on your show." And this is how we connected.
And here we are. It's amazing, isn't it? How
Yes.
connections happen, how you come to meeting people.
Yes.
That's the power of LinkedIn and networking, people. Make sure you do it.
Across the ocean. Yes.
Yeah.
Dear friend at home or wherever you are, let me tell you a little bit about Kyle Murtagh. Did I say this properly, Kyle?
Yeah, I was very impressed. Most people, get it very wrong, but that was perfect. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Great. All right. Number one, he is known as Scotland's most exciting public speaker. In 2021, out of thousands of contestants, 2 speakers were selected to represent Europe at the World Championship of Public Speaking. Kyle was one of them. But it wasn't the first time that he was a champion, though. In 2020, he was also crowned UK and Ireland speech evaluation champion. And he's not just a charismatic speaker and a master evaluator. He's also the founder of Confidence by Design since 2018, where he has inspired and coached thousands to find their public speaking confidence through interactive workshops, one-to-one coaching, and team training. He has amazing binge-watching content on his YouTube channel and social media pages. And finally, Kyle is also a successful author. His debut title, The 5 Pillars of Effective Public Speaking, yes, right there, has received 5-star reviews from readers across the globe who have discovered how to unlock their public speaking potential to achieve tangible results. I've talked enough. Let's jump right in. Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what it was like to be in your shoes when you were a little boy and a teenager, please?
Yeah, absolutely. It often surprises people, but I am still to this day, and I very much was back then, an introvert. I grew up a very, very shy boy, like painfully shy. I would barely speak at all. And so I had quite a tough time, being with my classmates, communicating with them, speaking up. I just didn't have the courage for whatever reason to do those things when I was in school. And admittedly, things did get worse for me when I found out that I was dyslexic in school. Now, for those that don't know, dyslexia, it's a learning disorder where you struggle with your reading, your writing, and your spelling. And my school was very academically focused. In other words, if you didn't get to university or get the grades to go to university, you were a failure. That was the bottom line, essentially. And I was failing in their eyes. I was really struggling with my work. I remember one time, especially in an English class, was terrible for me. I remember being asked to read in front of the class, read a book, and I remember getting up there and just, crumbling in front of everyone. So that's how timid I was. That's how shy and introverted I was, and of course I had no clue where I was going with my life either. So I was just sort of in this place where I wasn't feeling very good about myself, to be honest. I was lacking direction. I was lacking confidence. I was lacking ability in terms of speaking and sharing who I was and coming out of my shell. I just didn't know how at that period of time. And that's why I am so passionate about public speaking. Because when I found it many, many years later, it really helped me come out of my shell even more. And it's just amazing. If you get good at public speaking, all aspects of communication in your life improve as well, as I experienced.
Everybody say amen. Oh my God, yes. And just a quick question. When you had that reading incident there, that I feel like most of the world can relate to this, how old were you then?
I believe I was 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. 14.
Yes, I can think of a lot of those traumatic situations. So thank you for sharing that with us.
And it's really interesting. I speak to so many people at networking events and places like this, and they have similar stories. You know, maybe they stood up to speak to the class and went like that. I've had some people say they stood up and they wet themselves in front of the class. Their mind went blank, and they just avoid speaking for the rest of their life. So I know I'm not alone in that sort of experience for sure. Yeah.
No, you're not. So, wonderful. So at this point, you're a young man. Yeah. What made you choose your field of study when the time came to go to university? Curious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one saving light for me in my school was a psychology class. There was this class where we studied psychology, and we learned a lot of things about the mind, and I started to learn about things like self-image and self-development. You know, psychology sort of worms its way into that world, and that's where things began to improve for me, as I realized I can actually improve my circumstances. I don't have to accept my circumstances, and I began to grow and so forth. And I think that's why I continued to study psychology when I went to university as well. I just wanted to know more about the mind, about, you know, why people do things they do, and why people are successful and why people are not so successful. I was fascinated by that. I still am. And that's why I took psychology at a university here in Glasgow.
Yes. And you finished with honors.
I guess I got through it.
You're being humble, but I don't need to be humble for you. Good. Very good. Yes. Well, it is fascinating. I've always been fascinated with psychology as well.
Yeah. Did you study as well, Patty? What was your...
Yes, I have a bachelor in computer science.
Okay. Well, that is very different than what you're doing right now, isn't it?
Very different, but it comes in handy. Actually, in my whole life, it does come in handy. Yeah. And now, just with the way that I structure certain things. But psychology was always one of my favorite electives, and even when I was younger, I always loved those. To this day, I find it fascinating.
Yeah,
how the thing works.
I'm much the same. The psychology degree, to be honest with you, it wasn't all I hoped for. I was hoping it was going to be more about, like I said, why people do things they do and so forth. But we learned about stuff like why babies suck their thumbs and stuff like that. It wasn't the most enthralling. We learned a lot about Freud. He's quite a weird guy. But what it did do is it gave me that 4-year period of time where I had the opportunity, because I was a student, I had that excuse to try a bunch of new things, right? So I tried different jobs. I worked for WWF, not the wrestling, the wildlife charity. I was like selling cuddly toy pandas on the street to Scottish people. It didn't go well. I was a lifeguard for a period of time. What else did I do? Yeah, I did salsa dancing. I played football. I did boxing. Tried all of these things, and one of the things I tried in that time was public speaking, and that's what set me on the course I am now. So I am grateful for that time, even though it wasn't all I hoped for in the degree.
Yes. Oh, wow. Well, speaking of that, then, what was that turning point that made you decide, we all have this one event. What was the turning point that made you want to go visit a public speaking club for the first time?
Well, that was just by chance, to be honest with you. I saw an advertisement on a board, I think in my university, for a public speaking place you could go practice. It wasn't Toastmasters, but it was a place like Toastmasters, and I went along. But I would say what the turning point for me was, and I can say it in 2 words for your Toastmaster audience. The turning point for me was table topics. And my first table topic was this. Kyle, if a zombie apocalypse happened in Glasgow, where would you go, big man? So, yeah, I stood up. I'm shaking. I have no idea what to say. All these people are looking at me. And I say two words, Patty. The pub. And, yeah, and then I sit back down. So that was my first experience of public speaking. And, you know, it sounds fun. But when I sat back down, it did not feel fun. To be honest with you, I was really embarrassed. I was really embarrassed because I'd let the pressure, the fear I was experiencing affect me so much that I was only able to say two words. And I just felt I could do better than that, you know? I think many people have this. They stand up and they speak and they sit back down and they have that feeling, I could do more than that than I did today. And that really is what planted the seed for me for trying to improve my speaking. Because I looked at it practically. This is going to be something I have to do again in my business, in my career, whatever path I take in life. I might as well try and get better at it. And that's when I started attending more meetings, doing more topics, researching speakers online, just doing everything I could to acquire the knowledge. And slowly I got past that fear and really enjoyed my speaking. And that's when I really found my voice, I would say, overall, and was able to express myself more and will become the confident person I am today.
Woo! Amazing. I have to say, Kyle, that you did say two words. Because some of my guests, I won't mention them, they just got up and they left when they were put on the spot. So you know what? Bravo for actually having the courage to say the pub.
Yeah. But it's a great thing, table topics, because it puts you on the spot. You know, you may have not come to a meeting planning to speak, but now you are speaking, and it gives you that opportunity. And even if you do say two words, or you last 10 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever it is, that's still a starting point to build from. So if you are a Toastmaster, if you're new to Toastmasters, definitely put your hand up for a topic. Take that opportunity. You never know where it could lead.
Yes. All right. My friend, if you aren't signed up to receive Kyle's free weekly speaking tips, make sure to sign up on his website, confidencebydesign.co.uk. They are short but extremely impactful videos. So if you're short on time, this is what you need to do.
Thank you. Yes, I'm always posting weekly videos, just little tips and stuff which you can use in your future presentation. So yeah, you can check that out if you'd like to. Yeah.
So I stalked you a little bit, Kyle. And to the day, you have shared 176 videos on your YouTube channel. I don't know if you know this. Yeah.
I knew it was in the hundreds, didn't know it was that many. So you have stalked me. You weren't lying.
Yes, I was not lying. I'm an honest woman, Kyle. So, and yeah, that's a lot of videos. And I like to throw a little twist, a little impromptu twist at you.
Yeah.
If you had to lose every single one of your public speaking tips, the ones that you've ever shared, but only retain 3 of them until the end of your life, which one would you select?
Good question. I think the ones I would select are the ones where I'm breaking down a speaker. So I've got a few videos where I break down, for example, one of Oprah Winfrey's speeches, or David Attenborough's speeches, or Barack Obama's speeches. And the reason I would choose those, and maybe it's cheating your question a little bit, is because when you watch someone who is very competent, who is very confident in their speaking, there is so much you can learn. So I'm picking out lots of different things that David Attenborough's doing with his structure, because he's got an interesting message he's trying to get across. He's trying to get us to be more effective in terms of not creating emissions, not causing climate change. He's trying to get us to change. And getting people to change is quite a hard thing to do. So I break down kind of how the structure of how he's doing that. And with Oprah Winfrey, it's all about how she's emotive, how she's sharing a difficult, challenging story, and how she's making you feel that emotion. So I think I would keep those 3 videos as sort of showcase videos, because there's so much value packed in each one of those. But to answer your question in a different way, the basics of speaking, I think the most important things is to think about your nonverbal communication, then to be thinking about how you're using your voice for your delivery, but also, and it's the one people forget all the time, structure. Structure is king. If you do not convey your ideas in a seamless way with one message all the way through, it's going to be hard to get your key point across to the audience. So does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. So structure, nonverbal, and the third one was...
I think how you use your voice, right? How you
Yes.
actually grab people's attention, you know, because we talk about vocal variety a lot in Toastmasters,
Yes.
but not many people tell you actually how to implement vocal variety effectively. Like when to pause, when you should lift the volume, when you should lower the volume, when you should change the speed, right? All of these things can be learned because public speaking is just a skill.
Yes, I'm still working on this. I joined Toastmasters last year. Actually, it's a year, almost a year and a half ago. And there's always something to improve. And even world champions, they say themselves, when they look back at their champion speeches or their world championship speeches, they still say that I could have done this and that or that better. So
Yes, yes. Well, that's a key thing as well. You are always going to be striving to improve. There's never a perfect speech. There never has been. I'm talking from my evaluator point of view now. I can find an improvement in any single speech I've watched. I really can. Even Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I can find ways he can improve. Many people don't know, but that I Have a Dream segment is a very small part of that speech. It's actually a much longer speech. And for the first about 30 minutes of it, he was losing the audience that day. So if he can improve his speaking, I'm sure we can all improve our speaking too.
look, never looked at it that way, but yes. Okay, you're right. Absolutely. Let's talk about authenticity. Okay. So that's something that I struggle with, just being myself, because I did find the courage after like decades of never wanting to. Anyway, I struggle with public speaking my entire life. So when I finally found the courage, I was able to push record, but I didn't come across as being myself, which was pointed out to me by my brother. Like, you're very nice and everything, but this is not you. So, and there are a lot of great speakers I find, and I'm sure you've come across them because you evaluate all kinds of, thousands of people.
Yes.
I'm sure you meet great speakers that don't sound authentic, right?
Yeah.
So what can you tell us to help us to be more like ourselves on stage and meeting or on a camera, please?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, Patty, it's something I struggled with for a very long time and still sometimes wrestle with, because it's one of the hardest things to do in speaking. Be yourself. It sounds really easy, but it's really tough. And I think the best way to get there is to first figure out who you are. Like, who are you in your social life, right? When you're talking to your brother, how do you act in Patty's situation? But when you're talking to your family, when you're talking to your friends, right? How do you interact? Are you someone who uses lots of gestures? Are you someone who's very loud? Are you someone who is quite reserved and quiet most of the time? It's all about taking the real you in those informal, relaxed circumstances and bringing that to the stage. You've got to have the courage, the confidence to do it. And the only way to get there is through practice. You have to go up on stage and not be yourself for a while, unfortunately. Because by going through that, by experiencing the different styles which you can do in speaking, you're going to be guided in terms of what not only feels right for you, but what the audience feels as well. Because I've had times, especially early on in my career, where I went on stage and people say, Kyle, you seem like a Toastmasters robot. You just don't seem yourself. There's something untrustworthy about you. And it was because, I know, it was quite hurtful. It wasn't the sandwich feedback that day, let me tell you that. But I had to think about that and ask myself, why is that the case? And as I analyzed it, I realized I was spending way too much time practicing my presentations. Like, if I had a 7-minute speech, I would do that thing for not even a contest, just a normal 7-minute speech. I'd do it probably like 40 times. And when you do something with 40 repetitions and you're just early on in your career, it's very hard for that not to seem mechanical after a while, you know? So I had to learn, all right, I need to change the way I'm practicing, right? I need to be a bit more myself, not try and be this big polished speaker. I need to accept that sometimes I'll make a mistake, that not every gesture has to be perfect or in the frame or whatever it may be. So it's all about that journey of practicing, taking on the feedback and making adjustments, analyzing yourself. Am I truly being who I am? Do you know who you are in the first place? Figure that out and then work on it from from there. But it's an everlasting journey, being yourself on stage. You never quite nail it, I don't think.
Yes. Well, you seem like you're yourself right now. I feel like I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah, I am. I am myself. But another thing I should say as well with this is, yes, it's important to be yourself, but I also think it's important to be yourself on 10. And what I mean by that is, to be honest with you, Patty, right, there's been a few things that have happened today that haven't made me feel the greatest, right, about coming on this interview. I did a 12-mile run earlier. I'm a little bit tired, all of these things. But if I come on with that energy, and I'm quite flat about this interview, and I'm just wanting to get through your questions, it's not going to be very engaging for you, for the audience. I'm not even going to feel good about it, right? So I've got to make sure that I show up as a 10, show up with full energy, as my best, as who I am. So yes, be yourself, but be your best self, you on 10 when you're on stage. The audience deserve it. The audience deserve it.
I love that. I've never heard that before. Anyway, that's definitely quotable material. Be yourself on 10. Yes. Yes, because life can drag us down, and it's not even about being fake. It's just, why? Anyway, the world needs more positivity and life. We don't need more. We all have our problems, basically. So why weigh in on people?
Exactly. And the cool thing is, once you actually start acting like you're on 10, when you start moving your body and so forth, you'll feel like you're on 10, right? Your physiology changes your psychology. So it's beneficial for everyone all around.
Yes. And one last thing before I get to the next question is that I find nowadays people want a connection, especially after the last few years of pandemic that we had, that there's so much like fakeness or filtering and just people not being. So I feel that they crave a real connection with humans. This is why we're so happy to be. The virtual world is fantastic because it kept the world alive all this time. But this is why we want to meet people and we want to see people. Even now, I can connect with you from across the ocean because we need to connect as humans.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great point. There has been that lack of physical connection, and there has been that isolation with everything that's went on. So you're absolutely right. We're seeking it. And so give that to your audience. Tell them about your background. Share your story so they get an insight into who you are, and ultimately so that they can connect with you as well.
Yes. Okay. Like anything else, there are highs and lows in a public speaking journey, as you know.
Yeah.
And can you share with us your highest moment that filled you with the most pride and joy? And then share your most, if you don't mind, most humiliating or humbling experience, please.
Yes, absolutely. I would say my highest moment, well, I don't know if it'd be highest, but a special moment. It was a division contest for evaluation back in 2018. And I wasn't in the international speech. I'd been knocked out first round. Won't talk about that. No, I'm kidding. We can talk about it later. Yes, I was doing well with the evaluation contest. This was my first year in Toastmasters, and I got to the division level, and it was actually being held in my home city in Scotland. It's called Aberdeen. That's where I'm from. And what was special for me about this contest was that my mum was able to come along. And my mum, she is someone who has supported me through all that time I told you about earlier when I was very shy, introverted, failing, all these things. She's always been there for me. She's never given up on me. And it was cool because I won the division contest for evaluation that day. And it was the first time my mum got to see me speak. First time she actually got me to see me deliver a presentation. So that was a really nice moment, I think, for both of us, and for her to sort of see who I was becoming and who I've become. So that was probably a really special moment for me in my speaking, I would say. Low moments, well, I'm trying to think. Obviously, I love to compete in the contest, and from a Toastmaster point of view, a very low moment was losing in the semi-finals last year. I had put everything into my speech. I practiced it. I'd spent a lot of time, energy, and effort, and it just wasn't good enough, unfortunately, for the day. So that was a very low moment. And the sad thing as well was because of the time difference, we got up here in the UK about, I think it was 2 a.m. And I think my family were watching in their home. We were watching here in Glasgow, and of course you get the news that you've not got through. So that was quite a low moment in speaking. I would say that probably lower than that though was when I was starting my business, and I used to do these workshops, Patty, where I would get people to come along and we'd do a day's training or whatever. And one day for a workshop, it was a full day workshop, only 2 people showed up. Yeah, 2 people showed up. I was expecting there to be, I think 8 there, and two showed up. And it's just like, why am I doing this? Am I taking the wrong path? Should I keep doing this? Am I good enough? You know, just all of these things come up when you meet something like that. So that was a tough day as well. There's lots of tough days, Patty. There's lots of tough days.
Well, you kept going.
Yes. And that's the key thing, right? Especially if we're talking more about business. And my first year of business, there was 3 months where I made 0, like no money at all, you know? And you've got to just keep on going, keep on trying, keep on posting content. Before you know it, you'll get to 174 videos or whatever the number was, right? And just slowly but surely things do turn around, but it's just about that consistency. And the nature of it actually weeds out the people who are not fully committed. Because if you give up, right, that could be just before you're about to succeed. So, yes, things are a lot better now, I can report.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, and anyone who has ever accomplished anything, they always share those stories of failures, and they kept going, and rejection, and that you just have to keep going. And yeah, it's just, exactly as you said it, you maybe just one step away from making it or from breaking it. Yeah, you never know until you take that next step, right? It's like when you're running, because you're an avid runner, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did a whole speech about this. It was like my semi-final speech. You just got to focus on that next step. It's the key.
Yes, and actually, I will encourage you to see this video. It is actually the link, and you will be. It's fascinating. Just see how he works the camera, and it was one of the best virtual experience I've ever had. Like my car, the year before, 2020, actually, like it was like a whole revolution, basically, the way that I did it. And 2021, there was very solid people. So, and you were definitely one of them, because you were.
Oh, thank you. But that's going back to your authenticity journey, or point that we were talking about earlier. For me, looking back at that speech, it's a little bit embarrassing in some ways, because I do feel I was a little bit a bit too theatrical, and a little bit not as conversational, not as much myself as I could have been. And this is a key point, I think, which is important for everyone. When you look back at your old speeches or your footage or whatever it may be, it's a good sign if you feel embarrassed, because that means that you've progressed, you've changed, right? If you look back and you think, oh, that was class, that was brilliant, you know, you're still in that same place. You want to be evolving, right? So it's actually a good thing to look back and to cringe a little bit, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I cringe with everything I do, because I started my YouTube journey. Actually, it was in 2021, in August 2021, right? That's exactly when I launched my channel, because I finished watching all of your speeches because I was sick. I was supposed to be on vacation. Okay. And I stayed back. So it was either Netflix or the World Championship. So I watched every single one of your performances, and I had my box of Kleenex, and I was like really, really moved. And I was saying, oh my goodness, the spotlight is on the winner. So Very Price, which was phenomenal, by the way. And definitely absolutely. Very, very authentic.
Deserved winner.
Yes, absolutely. But everybody else, you know, of course, they were still valuable, but in terms of the World Championship, the spotlight is on the first person. And I go, what about all the other people? I said, I don't want to wait until I'm a world champion speaker one day to have the spotlight. I figured I'm going to start my YouTube channel now, even if I'm not very good. And I just started 3 months ago. So I shared my icebreakers and all those things on my YouTube channel, thinking maybe, you know, people can follow and come along. And some people have even joined my Toastmasters club, and they've saw, oh my goodness, you went from this to that, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but you could see the shift. So yes, I cringe every time. I feel like taking them. I want to take down at least my first 10 videos, But I hold back because I figured.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And how many videos have you done now, Patty?
Oh, you see, I did not stalk myself, Kyle. I don't know.
I'll need to do it for you, huh?
Maybe 70 something, or because I have 2 YouTube channels,
Yeah.
so basically total about close to 80 or 90 or something
Yeah.
like this.
And I bet that like your first podcast like this, if you look at that one and you look at the one you're doing now, I bet there's a huge difference.
Yes.
You know, and it's great to document things, to have the videos, because you get to see that progression as well. So well done to you. Kudos. I wonder how many people have been inspired by the World Championship and what they've done, but you certainly seem to be one of the most successful from it. That's for sure, with what you're doing.
Very nice. I know, but I'm sure a lot of it's countless over the years, over the decades. It must be a lot. And the same with you, by the way. Whenever I look back at your YouTube channel, we see all your different haircuts, all the iterations. It's really, really funny.
Well, I should say that those haircuts were not done by choice. That hairstyle happened because there were no barber shops open. There were no hairdressers open here in the UK for about a good year. So that's why the mullet man came out.
I love it. No, it's wonderful. You look very cool and wild at the same time. So very, very nice.
Cool and wild. I've never heard that before, but I will take that to the grave.
Yes. Great. Kyle, what is your best advice for someone who tells you, Kyle, I admire you for your bravery, your public speaking journey, all that you do, but it's just not for me. I just can't do it.
Well, I think the first thing is, this is not an Olympic sport. This is not the 100-meter sprint, for example, you know, where only there's a few people who have the genetic components available to get under 10 seconds for 100 meters. This is something that you do every day already. Believe it or not, you are already doing it. You're doing it when you're talking to your friends, when you're talking to your family, when you're talking at work. You speak every day. Even very quiet people, I was one of them, have to speak at some point. So you're already doing it. So the question rather is, are you happy with what you're doing, or would you like to improve? Because if you'd like to improve, then public speaking will give you the tools to help take your communication anywhere you want to go.
Oh, that was so profound. I love that. Thank you. And since you're so good at answering those questions impromptu,
I'll
ask you another one. If our listener is filled with ideas and dreams, but they keep getting shut down and ridiculed, and they have been dealing with failures after failures, what advice would you like to give them?
Yeah, I think you have to see failure as an opportunity to learn, right? You win or you learn. Even when you win, you learn. But as failing especially, it teaches you so much. Let me tell you, the times that I've failed in school, in business, in speaking, are when I've gained the most. I can tell you for a fact, if I had succeeded in school, I would not be in this position. I would not be motivated to start a business, to be competing, to do all of those things. If I had excelled in my business straight away, I would not appreciate the growth I've been able to achieve over the last 2 years especially, right? And creating the life that I want. If I had not failed, for example, in 2021 for the semi-finals, I would not have improved as a speaker, because I took so much and learned so much from that experience. So I would say, look back at your failures. What gems can you find in that rubble? Because those gems might just give you the power and the fuel to make that next thing that you tackle a success. So learn from the past so you can excel in the future, is what I would say.
Oh, you're just full of it.
Just keep throwing the ball. I'll keep batting.
Ooh, don't get me started. We'll be here all day. What is next for Kyle Murtagh, please?
Obviously, a big goal is still the World Championship. I believe full-heartedly that I have the potential to be a world champion, and looking beyond that, I believe I do have the potential actually to be regarded by the time I die as one of the greatest speakers of all time. I mentally I am there with that. So it's all about working every day to achieve those objectives. I'm working hard on my speeches right now, as I'm sure everybody else is, who takes the competition very seriously. I'm also wanting to make my business, Confidence by Design, far more than just me. I think it's an absolute tragedy that in schools, in work, in universities, we're not taught this great art, this great skill that we do every single day. I love your mug, by the way. I have to say that. It's a great shame. And if my business can just help, more people find that skill, find that lifelong skill, that will be a great success for me, because it's truly what I care about most, having an impact for people, helping them find their speaking confidence. So I want to grow my business. I want to take on more trainers. I want to make it a team, a high performance team. That is my goal. And it might even involve coming to Canada, Patty. So we'll have to catch up in person for the next podcast, if that's the case.
Yes. Bring Emma along with you. We can do a whole...
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll show you Montreal.
Yes, I will take you up on that offer. Very much want to see Montreal.
Yes. And finally, if someone in the audience would like to know more about you or reach out to you for your coaching services, trainings, workshops, what is the best way to reach you?
Yes, well, there's lots of places. You can go on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, just type in Kyle Murtagh. There's not too many Murtaghs out there, so you should be able to find me. Murtagh is how you spell the second name. You can also find me at my website, confidencebydesign.co.uk. On there, you can learn about my courses, what I do, a little bit more about my background, if you choose to as well. So these are the two main places, LinkedIn or the website, Patty.
Perfect. Great. Let me share my main takeaways.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I want to hear it.
Right. Take notes. Take out your notepad. If you get a chance to go to Toastmasters Club, dare to speak up at a table topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
So important.
When you speak, the three most important things is the voice, how you use it, the nonverbal communication, and the structure.
Yeah.
Okay. And figure out who you are to find your authentic self.
Gotta do that. There's no way around it.
Yes. Practice. And that was the best one for me. Be yourself on 10.
Yeah, it's important. You gotta give your best, right? The audience deserve it. Earn their attention.
Yes. And are you happy with how you speak, or do you want to improve? And your failures will take you to the life that you want.
Thank you. And thank you for asking great questions. They really have been good and engaging and thought-provoking today.
Good. Any parting words or last story you'd like to share with us, Kyle?
I think the key thing is, if you are someone who is trying to improve their speaking, if you have that desire, that drive, the key thing to do is find your place where you can practice that. And it could be going to Toastmaster clubs, it could be speaking up at your work meetings, leading the meeting, for example, it could be reaching out to a coach. But just find that place where you can actually practice, refine your skill, get that feedback, because ultimately that is what will help you soar and improve going forward with your speaking. You gotta take action. Find that place to practice today.
Yes. What a pleasure it has been to talk to you, Kyle. Thank you.
My pleasure. Really enjoyed it today.
Yes. And at home, at work, or wherever you are, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this time with Kyle as much as I did. And I will leave you with this. The power of your voice can change the world. Find it and use it. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.